Welcome to Wednesday Evening Musicale. I'm calling this the Dulcimer edition. I wanted to do a whole little program. I've had some requests for that. And I also wanted to acknowledge that it's St. Patrick's Day, the great day, as they used to refer to it on Beaver Island, where I lived for 10 years. So I wanted to start out with a song that goes back in Irish history. Beautiful song that was originally written on the harp in the late 1700s and became a fiddle tune, the Fiddlers of Clare, and then a writer named Freckle Donal McNamara wrote these lyrics about missing his homeland of County Mayo. And he wrote this beautiful story. The story is a poet who's exiled from his homeland. And the south wind, which is the name of this tune, came breezing by, and he has a little chat with the wind, and the two of them converse. This beautiful Irish song called South Wind. South wind of the gentle rain, you banish winter weather. Bring salmon to the pool again, the bees among the heather. If northward now you mean to blow, as you rustle soft above me, Godspeed be with you as you go, with a kiss for those that love me. And the wind answers, from the south I come with gentle breeze, my word all nature blesses. I melt the snow and ice strew the leaves with flowers and soft caresses. I'll help you to dispel your woe. With joy I'll take your greeting, and I'll bear it to your loved Mayo upon my wings so fleeting. And the poet answers gratefully, my Connacht famed for wine and play, so joyful, loyal and loving, here's my fond kiss I send today, borne on the wind in its roving. These monster folk are good and kind, right royally they treat me, but this land I'd gladly leave behind, with your Connacht pipes to greet me. south wind. Isn't that a beautiful old Irish song and tune? It was a song that I learned really early on when I was first playing the dulcimer back in the late 1970s. My first dulcimer was actually a sort of plywood thing I saw hanging on the wall of a music store in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Herb David's music store, and I'd never seen anything like it before, and I was just attracted to the shape of it. And I said, I'd like to play that, and took it off the wall, and I'd never heard a dulcimer played before, and just kind of taught myself what to do. And I keep learning through the years. It's a wonderful instrument. And I highly recommend it to somebody who wants to learn a musical instrument. Very forgiving instrument. You can't really make a bad note on the dulcimer. It's so simple. And I think of it as like a metaphor for life. You can make it complicated just like life, or it can be very simple. So the next song I'm going to play tonight, it's a little more complicated because I'd already played guitar. I was already used to using all the frets and chording and doing that sort of thing. And this is a song that's appropriate for Women's History Month, as well as featuring the dulcimer. It was inspired by a novel that I read called Flow Down Like Silver, which is a historical novel about one of those hidden figures in women's history named Hypatia of Alexandria, who was around in the late 300 AD period to 415 AD. She was a brilliant mathematician and philosopher and astronomer. She taught at the Library of Alexandria. She was highly respected and famed, and hence she was very threatening to the patriarchy. And we know she died exactly in 415 AD because she was put to death by an angry mob who had been raised up by the bishop of Alexandria at the time. So I read this novel, and I'd never heard of her before. Who's heard of Hypatia of Alexandria? Almost nobody, right? I mean, she should be as famous as Cleopatra, at least. So I was so inspired that I wrote this little song for her. And I'm going to sing this for Hypatia, and I want to sing it for all of the young women who are coming up in the world in the sciences and wanting to shine and be empowered. And I want to send this out especially to young Lila Holmes, who's a newcomer to the dulcimer. My friend Sally Rogers and I have been giving her some lessons. And so this is especially for you, Lila. Hypatia of Alexandria. And there's a part for you in it, not just for you, Lila, but for everybody listening. I'll show you when it comes up. There once was a gal named Hypatia. She'd beat you in spades if she raced ya. She'd philosophize you to mere smithereens, but not in a way that disgraced ya. Hypatia! That's your part. Try that. Hypatia! Hypatia was smarter than you are. In math and in science, a rock star. No women nor men who ever had been could exceed her in all knowledge thus far. Here we go. Hypatia! Alexandria was in survival, smuggling books from the flames of revival. They hid a whole library hoping to glean a culture none other could rival. Hypatia! Soon the Christians denounced her as pagan, just an uppity woman to rag on. But so many citizens thought she was keen, the powers that be had to wag on. Take it! So they whispered that she was too damn proud. Then they poisoned her pals in the royal crowd. They cornered her cruelly and staged a mob scene with pottery shards and a voice loud. Hypatia! They killed her for no earthly reason, except some vile priests found it pleasing. A sentiment that to this day is often seen. On women, it's still open season. Hypatia! So here's to all the gals like Hypatia. It's high time that we truly embrace ya. No longer forgotten or killed for your genes. We must stop them before they debase ya. Take it. Hypatia. Oh, beautiful, brilliant Hypatia. Some guys came along and replaced ya. You're too soon forgotten, your slate was wiped clean. His in the history erased ya. Hypatia. So now we must sing of her splendor to women and girls, though still tender. For with knowledge we triumph and thwart the obscene, and so in this way we befriend her. Hypatia. Oh, don't forget to remember Hypatia. Yeah, Hypatia of Alexandria. Check out the novel, Flow Down Like Silver. Of course, most of it's made up because there wasn't that much known about her, but it just fleshes out the story of her life beautifully. And there is also a children's book called Of Numbers and Stars, or of Numbers and Stars, I think it is, that somebody put out a few years ago that talks about her life and how important she was to the sciences back in that time, back way long ago. Well, I wanted to do a song especially for tonight. Somebody had requested another ditty that I chose not to do for personal reasons, but this seems like an especially appropriate one following this recent election. And, and the source that you hear a lot for this song is Robin Morton, who sang with Boys of the Loch many years ago. And so here's the thing, is I actually got to I was introduced to this song from the singing of Robin Morton after, I think, maybe the first Winnipeg Folk Festival I ever sang at back in the early 80s. And on the Monday after, those of us they called the survivors of the festival who were still around Winnipeg all got taken out to dinner at this Chinese restaurant. We were all in the back room and we had all like stuffed our faces and we were loaded on every possible way. And I can't imagine anybody even stringing one word together to make a sentence, and Robin Morton just burst into this song. And so I want to sing it for you tonight. I actually do have a little cheat sheet here I might have to consult at some point because it's not a song I do every day, as you will understand why soon. This is called The Irish Jubilee. A short time ago, folks, an Irishman named Doherty was elected to the Senate by a very large majority. Sure, he felt so elected that he went to Dennis Cafferty, who had him a barroom of a very large capacity. Ara, says Doherty, go over to the brewer and order 100 kegs of lager beer and give it to the poor. Then go over to the butcher shop and order up a ton of meat. Be sure the boys and girls have got all they want to drink and eat. They made me their senator to show them my gratitude. I'll give the finest supper ever given in this latitude. Tell them the music will be furnished by O'Rafferty, assisted on the bagpipes by Felix McCafferty. Sure, whatever the expenses are, remember I'll put up the tin, and anyone who doesn't come, be sure and do not let them in. Well, Cassidy at once he sent out the invitation, and anyone who came was a credit to the nation. Some came on bicycles because they had no fares to pay, and all those that didn't come made up their minds to stay away. Well, their twos and by threes they all rushed in the dining hall, young men and old men and girls that were not men at all. Blind men and deaf men and men who had the chicken pox, single men and double men and men who had their glasses on. Well, in a few minutes nearly every chair was taken till the tap rooms and the mushrooms were packed to suffocation. When everyone was seated and we started to lay out the feast, Cassidy said, rise up, and he gave us each a cake apiece. He then said as manager he would try to fill the chair. We then sat down and all looked over the bill of fare. Well, there was pigs' heads and goldfish and mockingbirds and ostriches, fish balls and snowballs, cannonballs and cartridges. Well, blue fish and green fish and fish hooks and partridges, fish hooks and blue fish and fish hooks. I'm going to just pick this up and read it because there's so many words to get together and I want to get it right. There was blue fish and green fish and fish hooks and partridges, fish balls and snowballs, cannonballs and cartridges. We all ate oatmeal till we could hardly stir about. Catch up and hurry up, sweet kraut and sauerkraut. Dressed beef and naked beef and beef with all its trousers on. Soda crackers, firecrackers, Cheshire cheese with breeches on. Beefsteaks and missteaks were down on that bill of fare. Roast ribs and spare ribs and ribs that we could not spare. Reindeer and snow deer and deer me and antelope. The women ate so much melon the men said they can't elope. Red herrings, smoked herrings, herrings from old Aaron's Isle. Bangor loaf and fruit cake and sausages a half a mile. Hot corn and corn cakes and honeycomb. Red birds and red books, sea bass and sea foam. Fried liver, baked liver, Carter's little liver pills. And everyone was wondering who was going to pay the bill. Well, we ate everything that was down upon that bill of fare, and then we looked on the back to see if any more was there. For dessert we had ice picks, toothpicks, and a piece of skipping rope, and washed them all down with a big piece of shaving soap. The band played hornpipes, gas pipes, and Irish reels till we danced to the music of the wind that shakes the barley fields. Then the piper played old tunes and spittoons so very fine. Then in came Fiddler Pat and gave him a glass of wine. A finer set of dancers you never put your eyes upon, and anyone that couldn't dance was dancing with his slippers on. Some danced jig steps, doorsteps, and Highland flings, till Murphy took his penknife out and tried to cut the pigeon's wings. When the dance was over, Cassidy told us all join hands and sing this good old chorus. Shall old acquaintance be forgot, whoever you may be? And think on the good old times we had at the Irish Jubilee. And think on the good old times we had at the Irish Jubilee. Slante. Can you imagine, after a big Chinese meal, after a whole weekend of festivalizing and partying, being able to just open your mouth and have that song fall out? It was one of the most amazing things I think I've ever witnessed. Well, I wanted to do a couple more songs on the Dulcimer, and I wanted to especially acknowledge my dear and recently departed friend, Peter Ostryshko, with whom I got to play some amazing music through the decades, through the 80s and 90s and into the aughts. In fact, on my recording Wings of Wonder, my entire band consisted of Dean McGraw on guitar and Peter Ostryshko on fiddle and mandolin, because we had just done a tour together in Alaska for a week and a half, and just kind of went into the studio and rolled through this beautiful set of songs. So I wanted to do a couple of those things tonight in his honor. Hang on a sec. Sometimes when you tune one string, all the others want a little bit of attention. You find that out with instruments. I have a story to tell about Peter, that he was such an amazingly intuitive and excellent player that I was making my recording with Sally Rogers while we live, and we had him come in and play on a couple of songs. He came in with his fiddle, and Eric Peltonimi, who was producing the album, we were kind of sitting there, and Peter walked in, and it's kind of this long trench coat thing and his black fiddle case, and we said hello, and he goes into his space, and he listens to the tune once, and then we record him, and he plays this absolutely perfect, beautiful thing. And then he put his trench coat on, put his fiddle away, put his trench coat on, and nodded goodbye and walked out of the studio. And Eric and I just looked at each other and went, the fiddle assassin. He was just so beautiful, such a beautiful musician, and so right in the pocket all the time. So he plays, on Wings of Wonder, he does play fiddle on this song. Hop up on these wings of wonder, let us fly toward the sun. Deep as wells and high as mountains, we will know that all is one. Every creature winged and footed, every feature given free. There is no such thing as ugly when the heart can help the eyes see. Ooh, 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 ooh. Hop up on these wings of wonder, do not be afraid to fly. I have waited for this moment, do not hesitate to cry. Fear will only kill your longing, make you hope for less than all. There is no such thing as fear when answering sweet mysteries call. Hop up on these wings of wonder while they linger, while they stay. They are strength and they are power, they are soaring night and day. Oh, such magic, they grow stronger with each soul is seen and known. They will not collapse or wither, though some people think they're all gone. No, no, no. Hop up on these wings of wonder, there is room for everyone. Wonderstruck and full of power, we can fly when work is done. Free the hand that holds it back, just reach on out and take it in. To be known as well as knowing is to live, to learn again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Hop up on these wings of wonder, 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 hop up, hop up, hop up, hop up, hop up. Wings of Wonder. Lila, if you're listening, that one's in 5. We haven't gotten to that particular time signature yet. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So that's pretty fun to figure that out. So I'm going to play one more tune here in honor of the Dulcimer, the Appalachian Mountain Dulcimer. And I just want to mention that this is the Wednesday evening musicale. I'm not here every Wednesday, but many Wednesdays. The days are getting longer. I know a lot of you are going to be out in your gardens and doing those sorts of things, so maybe I'll take a little more of a break, but I'll let you know. I'll put a little blurb up on Facebook, and I still have my donation station at my website, claudiaschmidt.com. For now, it's still pretty important, so please feel free to give that a visit if you're so inclined. Feel free to send me a note. I love hearing from people and knowing that you were listening. And let me know if you play the Dulcimer, and if you have any questions about the Dulcimer. I don't know if I can answer them, but I sure will try. I'm going to wind up with a song that, there was this woman I met when I was 18 years old and first out in the world. I ran away from my hometown and joined a theater group right after high school. And my first tour was in the Pacific Northwest. And in Seattle, I got to stay in the home of this amazing woman named Lois. I would have been 18. She was about 30 years older than me. Had a family, young kids, but Lois and I met like we were old souls. We just connected in a big way, and we've stayed in touch all these years. She's still hanging in out in Seattle, and she went through a terrible marriage. She had this friend, Peter, who went through a terrible marriage. They got together. They've had a wonderful marriage for many, many years, and so one of the times I was out visiting them, I used to go out there every Thanksgiving. I would play the night before Thanksgiving and be with them on Thanksgiving Day. I wanted to write them a kind of a thank you song. In the old spirit of the Irish harpers, they would write these songs called planksties. Planksty Fanny Power, and basically it was like an honor song. And some people say, well, that was so, because they lived for free at these people's houses and the least they could do was write them a song, right? So that's kind of this is like my Planksty Lois and Peter song. And also on Wings of Wonder had wonderful playing from Dean, and in this case, Peter on the mandolin. So I'm going to wind up with this sweet little song that I wrote for Peter and Lois, because I know everything they'd been through and how long it took them to get to the place where they could finally come together and be free to love each other. It's called Peter and Lois Go Round and Round. Thanks for being here tonight.